The heroic main characters. Always saving the day, doing the right thing, and honestly, get them the f out of here. So, you wanna watch animes where the main characters or the main cast is a bit more morally bankrupt, where there is straight up villains, psychopaths, or just good guys that have to do bad things. And this list is all about that. Make sure you tune in and note down every single recommendation. Terror in Resonance. It's about these two teenage geniuses, 9 and 12, and you can already assume just how their backstory is when they got numbers as names. And you know what they decide? You know what sounds fun? Blowing up stuff and trolling the government. But they're not your average anarchists. They've got insane intelligence and an almost artsy approach to terrorism. Meanwhile, there's Lisa, a walking anxiety attack who somehow gets roped into their chaos. Oh, and the cops are scrambling to figure out what's going on, with this one detective, Shibazaki, going full Sherlock mode to put the pieces together, discovering something he shouldn't, which ticks off fellow cops. It's like a cat and mouse game where the mice are borderline masterminds with a bone to pick with society, and the cat is an old guy who's way too smart to still be on the force. Sprinkle in some moral dilemmas, a haunting soundtrack, and an ending that hits you right in the gut, and you've got Terror in Resonance. Inashiki. So this is basically what happens when you mix an old man, a sociopathic teenager, and some alien tech, and they just let chaos ensue. The story kicks off with Ichiro Inuyashiki, this super nice, super boring old man who literally nobody respects, not even his own family. One day he gets hit by a UFO, yeah, seriously, and the aliens are like, oops, our bad, and rebuild him as a walking death machine. Enter Hiro Shishigami, who is very far from being a hero. Get it? Hero? He's a high schooler who also gets the alien upgrade, but unlike Ichiro, who's all about saving lives and being wholesome, Hiro decides, I'm gonna test out my new powers by killing people for fun. So now you've got this wild contrast. Grandpa Gundam versus Psycho Terminator Teen. I mean, the way Hiro kills people is just damn. Hiro doesn't even make any exceptions, like a scene where he sees a kid who also likes One Piece.
One Piece? 嘘マジ? 誰が一番好き?
By the end, it's just old man versus teenager in a showdown you didn't know you needed, but you do. 91 Days. It's your very dark mob revenge flick, but with extra angst and even fewer moral boundaries. The story follows Angelo, a guy whose entire family got wiped out by the mafia when he was a kid. Fast forward a few years and now he's all grown up, bitter and running on nothing but rage and a well-crafted plan to destroy everyone responsible. Angelo's not here to play the hero, he's here to infiltrate the Vanetti crime family, gain their trust and then burn their entire world to the ground from the inside. He's manipulative, cold and willing to do whatever it takes, even if it means betraying people who genuinely care about him. This show's dripping with tension, backstabbing and some of the most ruthless I can't believe he just did that moments you'll see in anime. It's not just Angelo pulling the strings either, everyone's out there scheming, double-crossing and gunning for power in a world where trust is a death sentence. Next up on the list is subscribe to Valifrog. Yes, I said it. Alright, Angels of Death is pretty much what you get when a clinically depressed 13-year-old and a scythe-wielding psycho decide to team up for the world's most chaotic escape room. Rachel wakes up in this creepy, sketchy building with no memory of how she got there, just a burning desire to die. Super uplifting start, I know. And there is Zach, he's basically a dollar store Grim Reaper with anger issues. He meets Rachel and she's like, hey, kill me. And Zach's like, sure, but later, first we gotta get out of this place. So now they're working together, going floor by floor, fighting their way past a parade of maniacs with increasingly unhinged personalities. It's edgy, it's over the top, and honestly it's kinda hilarious how weirdly wholesome their dynamic gets. Zach's a straight up murderer with the emotional depth of a brick, but somehow you're rooting for him, and Rachel, she's just vibing with the chaos in the most unsettling way possible. Darker Than Black takes place in a world where a weird phenomenon called Hell's Gates showed up, and with it, people called contractors started getting superpowers. Enter Hei, aka the Chinese electric Batman. He's a contractor who can manipulate electricity and is also ridiculously good at parkour. Dude's a walking thunderstorm in a trench coat, working as a hitman for some sketchy group called the Syndicate. For example, Hei here, the Chinese Batman, doesn't really seem to be evil in himself, but has to resort to evil doings. And if you're into morally grey characters, cool powers, and just the right amount of existential crisis, Darker Than Black delivers. There wouldn't be a villain MC list without codegeass. It's basically what happens when a guy with a god complex and a flair for the dramatic decides to become a villain of his own story. Enter Lelouch, a bored ex-prince with a grudge against the empire that ruined his life. He stumbles across this mysterious power called Geass, which lets him command anyone to do whatever he wants. Naturally, he's like, guess I'll overthrow an entire empire now. He is manipulative, ruthless, and will do whatever it takes to win. He builds up a rebellion under the name Zero, and he doesn't just fight dirty, he fights smart. His plans are like chess games, except the pieces are real people, and he's sacrificing them left and right without blinking. The show is basically a masterclass in how to root for a guy who's objectively kind of awful. Every decision Lelouch makes pulls him further into the villain role. By the end, you're just sitting there wondering how far he'll go before he burns everything, including himself, to the ground. Overlord. It's about a guy who gets stuck in his favorite video game after it's getting shut down, and he becomes his own character. And since he already was pretty much a villain, he decided to just go with it. Now he's got an army of loyal, bloodthirsty NPCs. But there's the fun part. Ainz leans into being the villain and starts taking over kingdoms, manipulating rulers, and casually wiping out anyone who gets in the way. All while keeping up this all-knowing, all-powerful being act, even though half of the time he's just winging it and hoping for the best. It's basically a power fantasy turned evil, but with just enough charm and self-awareness to keep you hooked. Gangsta. Gangsta rhymes. Gangsta the anime. All about these two guys, Warwick and Nicholas, who run a freelance odd jobs business in a city that makes Gotham look like Disneyland. Need a bodyguard? They're on it. Need someone taken out? They're already dead. Warwick is the smooth-talking ladies' man with a tragic past, and Nicholas is the deaf ex-mercenary who can wreck entire squads like it's nothing, thanks to some shady super drug that makes him freakingly strong. And they adopt this former worker, Alex, who somehow becomes the heart of this whole mess. The show dives into gang wars, corrupt cops, and a whole underground of Twilights. People like Nicholas with enhanced abilities who are treated like second-class citizens. It's brutal, it's raw, and it doesn't pull punches. Saga of Tanya the Evil. It is what you get when a sociopathic salaryman gets reincarnated as a little girl in a war-torn fantasy world and decides to become the most ruthless soldier alive. Because why not? Meet Tanya the yeah. She's 9 years old and has absolutely no problem committing war crimes if it helps her climb the military ladder. The twist? She used to be a cold, heartless businessman in a modern-day Japan who ticked off some godlike entity called Being X. So now she's stuck in the alternative reality, forced to fight in a magical World War I, all while trying to stick it to God by surviving and thriving in the worst conditions possible. Tanya isn't just a soldier, she's a straight-up villain. She leads her troops with terrifying precision, comes up with battle strategy, are as effective as they are brutal, and absolutely wrecks anyone who stands in her way. And she's not doing it for the honor or country, she's doing it because she wants to win at life, and maybe avoid eternal damnation. Ah yes, now the series that everyone expected on this list, Death Note. It's basically what happens when a bored genius stumbles across ultimate murder weapon and says, yes, I can fix the world. Not save it. Enter Light Yagami, a high school prodigy who finds a notebook that lets him kill anyone by just writing their name in it. Instead of freaking out like a normal person would, Light decides he's going to use it to play God and create a utopia where he's judge, jury, and executioner. But here's the thing. Light doesn't just use the Death Note, he becomes the Death Note. He's manipulative, arrogant, and will throw literally anyone under the bus if if it means to keep his secret. His transformation from "I'll just kill criminals" to "no one is safe if they stand in my way" is absolutely wild. Then there's L, the eccentric detective, trying to take him down. What follows is a high-stakes chess match between two geniuses where every move is calculated, every mistake is deadly, and the tension is cranked to 101. If you ever wanted an anime where the main character is the bad guy but makes it look so good, Death Note is the blueprint. So that's the list. Make sure to like and sub for more, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.